Your phone is controlling you, and you haven't even noticed. Hey there, today, I'm going to tell you how I got rid of 100 apps in just 24 hours and how it completely transformed my life. No, this isn't an exaggeration. It's the plain truth. And I bet you'll want to do the same after watching this video to the end. Let's start. Picture this. You wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is check your notifications. You open Instagram, take a quick look at Facebook, check your emails, scroll through Twitter, and before you know it, 30 minutes have passed. Sound familiar? Well, that was my routine. Every single day, I was trapped in a vicious cycle of constant distractions. My phone would vibrate every 5 minutes with some new notification. It was as if I had hundreds of people screaming for my attention all the time. And the worst part? I didn't even realize how much it was affecting my productivity and well-being. That's when I decided to do something radical. Delete 100 apps from my phone in just one day. Yes, you heard that right. 100 apps in 24 hours. Now, you might be wondering, but why 100 apps? Isn't that overkill? Well, let me explain. The truth is, most of us have way more apps than we actually need. According to an App Annie survey, the average user has about 80 apps installed on their phone, but only uses 9 of them daily. That means we have dozens of apps taking up space, consuming data, and most importantly, stealing our attention. And that's exactly what I realized when I started analyzing my own phone usage. I had apps I hadn't used in months, others I only opened once a week, and some I couldn't even remember what they were for. It was as if my phone was a digital attic full of junk I didn't have the courage to throw away. But then came the challenge. What if I got rid of all this? What if I drastically reduced the number of apps on my phone? How would that affect my life? That's how the 100 app challenge was born. I decided that in 24 hours, I would review all the apps on my phone and delete at least 100 of them. It seemed like a daunting task at first, but I was determined to make it happen. And now, I'm going to take you with me on this journey. I'll show you exactly how I did it, the challenges I faced, and most importantly, how this simple action completely changed my relationship with technology and improved my life in ways I never imagined. But before we get into the details, I want you to think for a moment. How many apps do you have on your phone right now? How many of them do you actually use every day? And how many could you live without? Keep these questions in mind as I tell my story, because at the end of this video, I'm going to challenge you to do something similar. And who knows, maybe you'll discover, just like I did, that less can be so much more when it comes to technology. So, let's start from the beginning. It was a Thursday night when I decided to start my challenge. I had just gotten home after a long day at work, exhausted and feeling like I hadn't accomplished even half of what I had planned. As usual, I picked up my phone to do that quick social media check before dinner. That's when it hit me. I was about to spend another hour mindlessly scrolling, looking at photos of people I barely knew and reading news I'd probably forget the next day. And the worst part, I did this every day. Several times a day. I decided it was time for a drastic change. I grabbed a pen and paper and started listing all the apps I had on my phone. The list was huge. It had everything: social media, games, productivity apps I never used, banking apps I didn't even remember existed. It was a real digital graveyard. When I finished the list, I counted the apps. The result shocked me. 237 applications. 237. It was like I was carrying an entire app store in my pocket. At that moment, I decided I would cut that number in half. 100 apps had to go. I started with the obvious: games. I had about 20 games installed, but I only played 2 or 3 with any frequency. The others were those you download in a moment of boredom, play once, and never open again. Goodbye Candy Crush. Farewell Angry Birds. It was easier than I imagined. Next, I moved on to social media. This was a bit harder. I had every possible social network imaginable: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest. The list seemed endless. I decided to keep only 3. Instagram, because I use it to keep in touch with close friends, LinkedIn, for professional reasons, and Twitter, to stay updated on news. The rest? Deleted without mercy. It was a bit scary at first. After all, what if I missed some important update? What if someone tried to contact me through one of these networks? But I soon realized that this fear was irrational. If it was really important, people would know how to find me. The next step was to review the productivity apps. Ironically, I had so many apps to increase my productivity that I ended up wasting time trying to decide which one to use. I had apps for making lists, apps for managing projects, apps for tracking time. It was overkill. I decided to keep only Evernote for notes and Trello for project management. The rest? Deleted. A category that surprised me was delivery and shopping apps. I literally had dozens of them. One for ordering pizza, another for sushi, another for buying clothes, another for electronics. I decided to keep only two, a food delivery app and Amazon for general shopping. Anything else I needed, I could use the browser. As I was deleting the apps, I started to feel a strange sensation. It was as if I was cleaning not just my phone, but my mind. Each deleted app was one less weight, one less distraction. It was liberating, but not everything was easy. When I got to the banking and finance apps, I realized I had accounts in banks I didn't even use anymore. I had to log into each one, check if I had any forgotten money. Surprise? I did, and only then delete. It was a time-consuming process, but it was worth it. Not only did I free up space on my phone, but I also organized my finances in the process. The hours went by, and I continued on this digital cleaning mission. I deleted news apps. I decided I'd read the news through the browser. Photo editing apps I never used. Travel apps from places I visited years ago. It was amazing how much digital stuff I had accumulated without even realizing it. When the clock struck midnight, I had deleted exactly 103 apps. I exceeded my goal. My phone felt lighter, more organized. The home screens, once a sea of colorful icons, were now clean and minimalist. Only the essentials remained. I went to bed with a sense of accomplishment, but also with a bit of apprehension. What would my next day be like without all those apps? Would I miss any of them? Would I be able to maintain this new digital diet? I woke up the next morning and, out of habit, picked up my phone to check notifications. To my surprise, there were none. Zero. Nothing. The digital silence was deafening. Normally, I would spend the next 30 minutes endlessly scrolling through my Instagram feed or checking emails that could wait. But that day, without all these distractions, I found myself with spare time. I decided to use this extra time to meditate, something I always said I wanted to do but never found the time for. It was only 10 minutes of meditation, but it made a huge difference in my mood. I felt more centered, more focused. It was as if I had regained control over my own mind. On my way to work, I would normally be glued to my phone, switching between different apps, but that day, I decided to observe the landscape through the bus window. It was surprising how many details I had missed all these years by always looking at a screen. Arriving at the office, the first thing I noticed was how much more productive I felt. Without constant notifications distracting me, I was able to concentrate better on tasks. Instead of switching between 5 or 6 different apps to manage my work, I used only Trello. Simple, efficient, and uncomplicated. At lunchtime, I realized I no longer had the food delivery app installed. For a moment, I panicked. How would I order food? But then I realized I could simply go out and buy something on the street. I ended up discovering an incredible restaurant 2 blocks from the office, which I had never noticed before because I was always glued to my phone screen. In the afternoon, I had an important meeting with a client. Normally, I would be discreetly checking my phone under the table. But that day, with fewer apps to distract me, I found myself fully present in the conversation. The result? We closed a deal that had been stalled for weeks. Heading home, I found myself thinking about how different my day had been. I felt more productive, more present, more alive. It was as if I had reclaimed hours of my day that were previously wasted on digital distractions. In the evening, instead of spending hours mindlessly scrolling through social media, I decided to read a book, something I hadn't done in months. It was invigorating. I went to bed earlier and, for the first time in a long time, I didn't stare at the bright screen of my phone before sleeping. The following days followed a similar pattern. More and more, I noticed the benefits of having fewer apps. I had more time to do things that really mattered. My ability to concentrate improved significantly. I could work for longer periods without interruptions. Not having a constant stream of notifications and updates greatly reduced my anxiety. I was more present in moments with friends and family, instead of always checking my phone. Without the temptation to stay on my phone late, my sleep patterns improved dramatically. I realized I was spending less money on impulse purchases and unnecessary app subscriptions. With fewer digital distractions, My mind was free to think more creatively, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were moments of difficulty. For example, when I wanted to post a photo on Facebook and realized I had deleted the app. Or when I urgently needed a ride-sharing service and had to download the app again, although I deleted it right after. The hardest part was dealing with FOMO, fear of missing out. In the first few days, I was anxious thinking about all the updates and news I might be missing. But over time, I realized I wasn't really missing anything important. The truly relevant news always reached me somehow. A week after deleting the 100 apps, I took stock of the experience. My work productivity had increased by about 30%. I was sleeping an average of 1 hour more per night. My stress level had decreased considerably, and most importantly, I felt more connected to the real world and the people around me. I decided to maintain this new digital diet. Of course, over time, I ended up reinstalling some apps that I realized were truly useful, but I was very selective. Each app that came back to my phone had to prove its value. Today, 3 months after that night when I decided to delete 100 apps, my relationship with technology has completely changed. I use my phone more consciously and intentionally. I'm no longer a slave to notifications. And best of all, I've regained control over my time and attention. And you know what? You can do this too. You don't have to be as radical as I was. Deleting 100 apps at once might be too much for some people. But how about starting with 10 or 20? Here are some tips to start your own digital cleanse. First, make an inventory. List all the apps you have on your phone. Then, categorize. Divide the apps into categories like daily use, occasional use, and never use. Be honest. Ask yourself, does this app really add value to my life? Set rules. Decide how many apps you want to keep in each category. Be ruthless. If you haven't used an app in the last 30 days, you probably don't need it. Try to group functions. See if you can replace several apps with a single, more comprehensive one. Use web alternatives. Many services can be accessed through the browser without the need for an app. Backup. Before deleting, make sure to back up any important data. If you're not sure about an app, give it time. Move it to an under observation folder for 30 days before deciding. Finally, make this cleanse a regular habit, perhaps every 3 months. Remember, the goal is not to get rid of technology completely. The phone and apps are incredible tools when used the right way. The secret is to find a balance that works for you. Since I made this change, my life has improved in many aspects. I'm more productive at work, more present in relationships, more creative in my personal projects, and most importantly, I feel in control of my digital life instead of being controlled by it. And you, are you ready to make a similar change? Can you imagine what your life would be like if you had more time, more focus, fewer distractions? The challenge is set. Start small if you want. Delete 10 apps today. See how you feel. I bet you'll be surprised by the results. Remember, your phone should be a tool to improve your life, not to dominate it. Take the reins of your digital life. You have the power to choose how you want to use technology. So, are you going to take on the challenge? Leave in the comments how many apps you decided to delete after watching this video. Your experience might inspire others to do the same. If you liked this video and want more tips on productivity and digital well-being, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to receive notifications. See you next time.